The Krelzar Empire had long been known as one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. They controlled dozens of systems and had the most advanced technology in the universe. They had conquered entire species, and their soldiers were feared across the stars. No one dared challenge them. The galaxy knew the Krelzar as ruthless conquerors, and their reputation was well earned. So when they set their sights on humanity, they didn't think twice. Humanity, at this point, had just recently joined the galactic community. They were known to be curious and determined, but no one had ever seen them as a threat. The other species thought that humans, with their primitive technology and small population, were no match for a massive empire like the Krelzar. The Krelzar, in particular, saw humanity as an easy target. They thought that taking over Earth would be just another victory to add to their list. The Krelzar made their move quickly. They sent their fleet of warships, well-equipped and ready for battle, to Earth. They expected a quick surrender, but what they didn't realize was that they were about to make a huge mistake. The leaders of the Krelzar Empire believed that humanity's governments would crumble under the pressure. They were sure that the humans would panic and give up. After all, the Krelzar had destroyed entire civilizations before with ease. So when they declared war on Earth, they did so with the certainty of victory. What they didn't know was that Earth's leaders were not about to back down. They had seen what the Krelzar had done to other species, and they knew the stakes were high. But instead of rushing into a battle they might lose, the humans decided to do something unexpected, something the Krelzar would never see coming. The humans knew they couldn't win a direct fight with the Krelzar's superior forces. Their weapons were still too basic, their fleet too small. But they also knew that the Krelzar made one big mistake. They underestimated humanity. This was not just any species. It was a species that had survived on a deadly planet, fought countless wars, and rebuilt time and time again. Humanity had always found a way to overcome the odds, no matter how impossible it seemed. Earth's leaders came together in secret. They knew the only way to defeat the Krelzar was to surprise them. If the humans were to fight the Krelzar head-on, it would be a losing battle. So they came up with a plan that no one could have predicted. They would pretend to be weak, helpless. They would fake their vulnerability to lure the Krelzar into a false sense of security. The Krelzar were not just confident in their strength. They were overconfident. They thought humanity would crumble under the pressure of war. They didn't think twice about attacking Earth's colonies, destroying their cities one by one. They watched as Earth's military seemed to fall apart, as Earth's defenses looked overwhelmed. The Krelzar laughed. They thought this would be easy. But what the Krelzar didn't know was that Earth was setting a trap. Every time the Krelzar attacked a colony, they did so with the belief that they were crushing humanity. But behind the scenes, humanity was gathering its resources, strengthening its defenses, and preparing a surprise that would shock the Krelzar to their core. The Krelzar's generals were puzzled. They had expected Earth to resist. They had expected some kind of defense. But they didn't expect the humans to do nothing. As they watched the chaos unfold across the colonies, they began to believe they were winning. The Krelzar were starting to think that they had underestimated the humans, but only because they thought they had already won. They didn't see the bigger picture. They couldn't imagine that humanity was still in control. Meanwhile, the humans were preparing. They had a plan that was so ridiculous, it would be hard to believe even if you were on their side. Humanity wasn't just planning to defend themselves. They were planning to make the Krelzar regret ever underestimating them. The Krelzar's arrogance blinded them. They were certain that the humans had no chance. They underestimated the one thing that had kept humanity alive for centuries: their ability to adapt, to innovate, and to fight back when all seemed lost. Earth's leaders knew that time was running out. The Krelzar were growing bolder with every attack, and they knew it was only a matter of time before the Empire would send a final decisive blow. But the humans didn't panic. Instead, they worked quietly, behind the scenes, making preparations for a plan that would be revealed at the perfect moment. It wasn't a plan based on brute force. It was a plan based on surprise, a plan that would catch the Kralzar completely off guard. And so, as the Kralzar prepared for what they thought would be the final victory over humanity, they had no idea that they were walking straight into a trap. A trap set by a species they had considered weak, a species they thought they could easily destroy. But in their overconfidence, the Kralzar had made the biggest mistake of all. They had underestimated humanity. As the Kralzar Empire advanced on Earth, the human secret plan was beginning to take shape. To the outside world, it seemed like Earth had no chance of survival. Major cities were reduced to rubble, and their military forces were spread thin, constantly retreating in the face of the relentless Kralzar onslaught. People on Earth began to wonder if there was any hope left. But behind the scenes, a quiet revolution was brewing. The humans knew the Kralzar were getting too comfortable. They had launched their full offensive, believing that Earth's defenses were crumbling and that their victory was near. But the humans were not afraid. They had been preparing for this moment for decades, even though no one would have believed it possible. The Kralzar were wrong about humanity, and they were about to find that out the hard way. In secret, Earth's most brilliant minds, including scientists, engineers, and military strategists, had been working on a weapon of unimaginable power. A weapon that, when unleashed, could change the course of the war. It wasn't a traditional weapon like the Kralzar had anticipated, something that could be easily countered. Instead, it was something far more dangerous, a weapon of surprise, one that could make even the mightiest of empires falter. As Earth's leaders prepared to put their plan into action, the Kralzar continued their assault. They had no idea that their arrogance was about to cost them everything. Their fleet had destroyed most of Earth's major defense systems, but they had no idea that the humans had something else hidden in plain sight. They thought they were in control, but they were walking into a trap. The plan was simple but genius. While the Kralzar focused their attention on Earth's surface, the humans had secretly been building an underground network of advanced machines, hidden deep beneath the planet. These machines were part of a larger, highly classified project that had been set into motion years earlier, designed to create a counterattack that the Kralzar could never have predicted. The humans had developed technology that could manipulate gravity, disrupt communications, and even alter the trajectory of enemy warships. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a way to turn the tide of the entire war with a single, decisive strike. And the Kralzar had no idea it was coming. Earth's leaders knew they had to act quickly. The Kralzar were growing more confident by the day, and their forces were gathering for an all-out assault on Earth's capital. They thought they were about to deliver the final blow, but they hadn't accounted for one simple fact. The humans had been preparing for this moment from the start. At the heart of humanity's plan was an alliance of nations that had come together in a way never seen before. Every country, every person, had a role to play in the grand scheme of things. There was no room for hesitation. The Kralzar were about to discover that humanity was not the weak species they had assumed. They were about to see just how dangerous humans could be when pushed to their limits. The time for waiting was over. The humans had been patient, letting the Kralzar think they had the upper hand. But now, the final phase of the plan was set into motion. The Kralzar would soon realize that Earth had never been as weak as they thought. They were about to experience something they had never encountered before, a force more powerful than their weapons, more devastating than anything they could have imagined. As the Kralzar fleet prepared to make its final assault on Earth, the humans were ready. The trap was set. The Kralzar would soon be forced to confront the truth, that humanity, with all its flaws and imperfections, was not a species to be underestimated. The Empire's confidence was their greatest weakness, and the humans were about to turn that weakness into their greatest strength. In just a few hours, the course of the war would change forever. The Kralzar, in their overconfidence, had made a deadly mistake. They had underestimated the humans, and now they would pay the price. The countdown to the humans' counterattack had begun. Earth was no longer on the defensive. The Kralzar were about to face an unimaginable force, and nothing would be the same after today. The Empire had made its move, and now humanity was about to show them just how powerful they could be. As the final moments of peace before the storm approached, the humans were prepared to strike. They had waited long enough. The Kralzar were blind to what was about to happen, their confidence blinding them to the growing threat beneath their feet. The humans' plan was set, but they knew that timing was everything. The Kralzar had a massive fleet, but the humans had a secret weapon. Surprise! The Kralzar were busy consolidating their forces, preparing to launch their decisive strike against Earth's capital. They were confident that their overwhelming numbers and firepower would easily crush any resistance left. They thought the humans were broken, that their cities were in ruins, and that their military was in full retreat. What they didn't know was that this was exactly what the humans wanted them to think. In the deepest, most secure facilities on Earth, the final preparations were taking place. Engineers and scientists, once considered hopeless dreamers, were now the backbone of the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. They had developed something so incredible, so powerful, that it could completely disrupt the flow of the war. But they had only one chance to use it, and it had to be perfect. For years, they had secretly worked on a machine that could manipulate the gravity of any ship or structure. It was a technology far beyond what the Kralzar could comprehend. Earth's military leaders knew that the only way to turn the tide was to use this technology when the Kralzar fleet was at its closest, in the midst of their most powerful assault. The Kralzar would never see it coming. As the countdown to the Kralzar's final assault began, a wave of tension washed over the Earth. The entire planet was holding its breath, knowing that their survival depended on what was about to happen. In the command centers, there was no fear, only cold focus. Every human involved knew what was at stake. This was no longer just about defending Earth. It was about proving that humanity had the power to fight back against any enemy, no matter how powerful. The Kralzar fleet was in position. Their ships, each massive and heavily armed, hovered in space above Earth. Their commanders believed they were moments away from victory, and they were already celebrating in their minds. Their weapons were ready, their strategies in place, and their victory was almost certain. They couldn't understand why the humans had shown no resistance. It was almost as if they had given up. Little did they know, they were about to be hit with the most unexpected blow of their lives. As the Kralzar made their final approach to Earth's capital, the humans activated the gravity manipulation technology. It wasn't a flashy weapon, nor did it explode with a massive bang. Instead, it silently altered the gravitational fields around the Kralzar fleet, shifting their positions and sending their massive warships into a complete disarray. The Kralzar were caught off guard. Their ships, once moving in perfect formation, were now floating aimlessly in space. Some of the ships collided with each other, others veered wildly off course, and some even began to plummet toward Earth. The human gravity device had rendered their fleet helpless, and in a matter of minutes, the Kralzar had gone from the dominant force to disarrayed chaos. In the command center, the human leaders watched in stunned silence. The plan had worked. The Kralzar, who thought they could easily defeat humanity, had been thrown into confusion. The once mighty empire now found itself facing a disaster of its own making. The humans had given them no warning, no signs of resistance, and yet in an instant, everything had changed. The Kralzar commanders, now frantically trying to regain control, realized the full extent of their mistake. They had underestimated humanity. They had assumed that their strength and numbers would crush Earth without any trouble. But they were wrong. Humanity had just proven that they could turn the tables in an instant. This wasn't just a military victory for Earth, it was a message. The Kralzar had thought they could bully humanity, crush their spirit, and take Earth without a fight. But now, the Empire was on the defensive, struggling to maintain control over its own fleet. The humans had shown them that they were far from weak. As the Kralzar fleet scrambled to regroup, the humans were already preparing for the next phase of their plan. The gravity manipulation technology had bought them precious time. But the war was far from over. Humanity had sent a clear message. They were not going to give up, not without a fight. And the Kralzar had no idea what was coming next. The Empire was reeling, but it wasn't done yet. It would regroup, it would try to retaliate, and it would make one last push to take Earth. But humanity was ready. They had just shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. The stage was set. The battle for Earth had taken a surprising turn, and now humanity was in control. But the Kralzar weren't finished. They would fight back. And that meant the next chapter of this war would be even more intense. The humans had made their move, but the Empire was coming for them. The real test was just beginning. The sudden disruption of the Kralzar fleet left the Empire in chaos. Their grand invasion plan, so carefully laid out, was now falling apart. The vast, powerful ships that were meant to dominate Earth's skies were drifting, disoriented, and powerless. It was a moment of shock. Their commanders scrambled, their voices filled with panic and disbelief as they tried to regain control. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't undo the damage caused by the humans' gravity manipulation technology. Back on Earth, the atmosphere in the command centers was electric. The unexpected success of their plan had given humanity an unprecedented advantage. For the first time in centuries, the Kralzar were not the ones in control. They were the ones reacting to the humans' actions. The tables had turned. However, this wasn't the time for celebration. Humanity knew that this victory, while significant, was only temporary. The Kralzar, if given time, would regroup and retaliate. The humans couldn't afford to get complacent. They had bought themselves some time, but that time needed to be used wisely. As Earth's military leaders convened, plans were already in motion for the next phase. They couldn't let the Kralzar reorganize and regain their strength. This was the moment to strike. And humanity, now fully aware of the Kralzar's weaknesses, was determined to make it count. The Kralzar, however, were far from defeated. The gravity manipulation had caused massive chaos, but it had not destroyed their fleet. Some ships were still intact, and the Empire's leaders were not about to give up. The Kralzar were determined to exact revenge. They quickly began making repairs to their damaged ships, but the delay had already put them on the defensive. They had lost their advantage, and now they were playing catch-up. In the midst of all this chaos, humanity's forces began to mobilize. The time had come for Earth's military to push forward and capitalize on the disarray in the Kralzar ranks. They knew that if they hesitated, the Empire would regroup and retaliate. The first wave of attacks was launched, and humanity's forces surged into space, confident and organized. As they engaged the Kralzar ships still in orbit, humanity's forces were relentless. They knew that this was their best chance to crush the Empire's grip on Earth once and for all. The Kralzar, still reeling from the gravity disruption, were slow to respond. They were in full retreat, struggling to protect their remaining fleet from humanity's precise, coordinated assault. The battle in space was fierce, but humanity was no longer fighting with desperation. They had confidence, and with that confidence came strategy. The Kralzar, who had once believed they were unstoppable, now found themselves cornered, unable to adapt quickly enough to the humans' moves. In the midst of this chaos, the true scope of humanity's resolve was revealed. It wasn't just the technology or the gravity manipulation that made the difference. It was the humans' refusal to give up. They fought with the determination of a species that had been through countless hardships and still refused to be broken. The Kralzar were witnessing firsthand the strength of humanity's will, and it terrified them. For the first time since the war began, the Kralzar commanders began to question everything. They had underestimated humanity at every turn, thinking they could crush the humans with ease. Now, they were facing the consequences of their arrogance. The Kralzar had made a terrible mistake, and as they scrambled to regain their footing, they realized that the humans were not only fighting to survive, they were fighting to win. With every passing moment, the Kralzar's grip on the galaxy weakened. Humanity's forces, once thought to be insignificant in the grand scheme of things, had become a formidable threat. The Empire had thought they could wipe out humanity easily, but now it was clear that they had underestimated their opponent. As the Kralzar fleet continued to falter, humanity's forces pressed forward with unrelenting precision. They knew this was their moment. The war that the Empire had initiated was far from over, but the humans had already proven that they were not to be underestimated. The Kralzar, realizing that they were losing, made one final attempt to regroup and launch a counteroffensive. But it was too late. The momentum had shifted. Humanity had proven that they could fight back, and they weren't about to let the Empire take Earth without a fight. The battle for Earth's survival had become a battle for the future of the galaxy. As the Kralzar retreated, nursing their wounds, the humans took their first steps toward reclaiming their home. The Empire had made a colossal mistake, and the cost would be more than they could ever imagine. The war was far from over, but humanity's resolve was unbreakable. As the Kralzar retreated and regrouped, they could not ignore the reality that humanity was no longer the weak, helpless species they once thought they could easily crush. This sudden shift in power had left the Empire reeling. They had expected Earth to be just another target, another planet to conquer, but now the humans were no longer just defending. They were fighting back with everything they had, and they were not willing to stop until the last Kralzar had retreated or been destroyed. The retreat of the Kralzar fleet didn't last long. The Empire's high command was determined to take back control. They gathered their remaining forces and began to make repairs to the damaged ships. The Kralzar were proud, relentless warriors, but they had never anticipated humanity's resourcefulness. The humans had used their technological advantages with skill and cunning, and the Kralzar were paying the price for their underestimation. But despite their efforts to regroup, the Kralzar were no longer the only force in the galaxy. Humanity had proven that they could stand toe-to-toe with the Empire, and that fact had spread like wildfire. Every corner of the galaxy began to take notice. No longer would any species dare to underestimate the humans. They had shown they were capable of more than just surviving. They could conquer, they could outthink, and they could overcome the impossible. The humans were not resting on their laurels. As the Kralzar rebuilt their ships, Earth's military leaders pushed forward with relentless determination. They knew they couldn't afford to give the Empire time to reassert itself. Now that they had momentum, they needed to strike quickly and decisively. The window of opportunity was small, and they intended to make the most of it. With their fleets now mobilized, humanity launched another wave of attacks against the Kralzar. This time, the humans were more confident, more prepared. They knew their enemies' weaknesses, and they weren't about to let them escape so easily. Every move was calculated, every strategy executed with the precision of a species that had fought for survival time and time again. The Kralzar, on the other hand, were still struggling to recover from their previous defeat. The damage to their fleet had been far more significant than they had realized. As they tried to assemble a counterattack, they found that they lacked the numbers and the firepower to push back against the humans. Their once mighty fleet was fractured, and their commanders were beginning to question their own strategies. Despite their growing frustration, the Kralzar knew they couldn't afford to give up. They had initiated the war, and they couldn't back down now. But as each new wave of human attacks came, it became clearer that the Empire was not the unstoppable force they had once believed themselves to be. They had pushed humanity too far, and now the consequences of that decision were unfolding before their eyes. The humans were relentless. They attacked the Kralzar on every front, exploiting every weakness, capitalizing on every opportunity. The Kralzar had once believed they were superior to all other species in the galaxy, but the humans had shattered that illusion. The balance of power had shifted, and the Empire was losing control. The Kralzar began to make desperate moves, trying to consolidate their remaining forces and mount a counteroffensive, but it was too little, too late. The humans had taken the initiative, and they were determined to see it through. Every Kralzar ship that fell to the humans was a reminder of the mistake the Empire had made. Every ship that turned tail and fled was a symbol of their failure. Earth's military leaders, watching the tide of battle turn in their favor, knew that this was their moment. The Empire had underestimated them, and now the humans were making sure that everyone in the galaxy would know their strength. No longer would humanity be the subject of ridicule or scorn. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and it was a lesson that the Kralzar had paid a steep price for. As the Kralzar retreated yet again, the humans pressed forward, unwilling to let up. The war was far from over, but they had gained the upper hand. Humanity had proven that they were more than capable of standing up to the might of the Kralzar. And as they prepared for the final stages of the war, they knew that no other species in the galaxy would ever make the mistake of underestimating them again. The Empire's arrogance had been their undoing, and now the humans had a chance to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. No longer would they be seen as weak, as insignificant. They had shown that when pushed to the edge, they could rise up and fight with a strength that no one could predict. And as the battle raged on, one thing was certain. The Kralzar would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again. As the war dragged on, the Kralzar Empire found itself on the brink of collapse. Their forces had been shattered, their morale broken, and yet they refused to surrender. The pride of the Kralzar was their greatest strength and their most dangerous weakness. For centuries, they had been the galaxy's top power, their name synonymous with fear. Now they were fighting to hold on to that legacy, but the humans were relentless. Humanity had become a symbol of defiance and resilience. With each victory, the human forces gained more confidence, more supporters, and more allies. The Kralzar, once so sure of their dominance, now found themselves facing a reality they had never anticipated. They were no longer the feared conquerors, they were the ones on the defensive. The humans, meanwhile, were not slowing down. Their strategy had been simple but effective. Relentless attacks, outsmarting their enemies at every turn, and exploiting every weakness. Humanity's military had quickly adapted to the Kralzar tactics, learning from each engagement and using that knowledge to outmaneuver their opponents. They had been underestimated for too long, and now they had the chance to reshape the entire balance of power in the galaxy. The Kralzar High Command convened in secret, their thoughts heavy with the weight of their situation. They had made mistakes, massive ones, and now they had to face the consequences. The humans, with their unpredictable nature and newfound strength, had caught the Kralzar off guard at every step. They had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, and now the humans were pushing forward with a vengeance. But it wasn't just the humans they had to worry about. As word of the Kralzar's struggle spread, other species in the galaxy began to take notice. Some of them, long kept in check by the Empire's rule, began to see an opportunity for themselves, and they were watching humanity closely. If humanity could defeat the Kralzar, what could they do to other powers in the galaxy? The stage was set for a dramatic shift in the galactic order, and the Kralzar were running out of time to prevent it. The humans, however, were not only focused on their war with the Kralzar. Their military forces were spreading through the galaxy, gaining support from those who had suffered under the Empire's tyranny. There was a growing movement of rebellion and alliance, and humanity was at its center. The Kralzar were no longer the galaxy's unchallenged rulers. They were struggling to maintain control of their own territory, and their enemies were closing in on all sides. As the Kralzar regrouped, they prepared for a final, desperate assault. They had no choice but to use their most powerful weapon, their fleet's ultimate warship. It was a massive, heavily armed vessel capable of obliterating entire planets. The Kralzar believed that this would be their last chance to strike back, to prove that they were still the Empire to be feared. They were hoping that one final show of strength would scare humanity into submission. But the humans were ready. They had anticipated this move. They knew that the Kralzar would stop at nothing to try to reclaim their position. And they had a plan. As the Kralzar prepared to launch their final attack, Humanity was already in position to counter it. The warship they had built in secret, their own crowning achievement, was now ready for battle. Humanity wasn't just reacting to the Kralzar's moves. They were dictating the terms of the war. The stage was set for the final showdown. Humanity, once considered the underdog, was now in control. The Kralzar's pride, their arrogance, had cost them dearly. They had underestimated the human spirit, the human will to survive. And now they were facing a force they had no way of countering. As the final battle approached, the fate of the galaxy seemed to hang in the balance. Could the Kralzar win back their throne, or would humanity claim its place at the top of the galactic hierarchy? The Empire had already lost so much, but they refused to give up without a fight. They would either die trying to reclaim their power, or they would go down in history as the empire that could not withstand the rise of humanity. The next move would be humanity's, and with it, the galaxy would change forever. The final battle was upon them. The Kralzar Empire, desperate to retain their dominance, had deployed their ultimate weapon, a colossal warship, a symbol of their once unmatched power. The ship was capable of wiping entire fleets off the map with a single shot, a terrifying force that could turn the tide of the war in an instant. The Kralzar were betting everything on this vessel, their last hope of crushing humanity once and for all. On the other side, humanity had prepared for this moment for years. The humans had studied the Kralzar's war tactics, their strengths, and their weaknesses. They knew that the Kralzar's reliance on their warship would be their downfall. Humanity had built their own secret weapon, a ship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was fast, stealthy, and brimming with technology that even the Kralzar had never encountered before. It was humanity's ace in the hole, and they were ready to use it. The battle began with a deafening roar as the Kralzar fleet surged forward, their warship leading the charge. The massive ship unleashed a barrage of deadly firepower, targeting the human fleet with relentless precision. But humanity was ready. Their ships moved swiftly, dodging the Kralzar's fire, their pilots skillfully navigating through the chaos of space. The Kralzar were used to overpowering their enemies with sheer force, but this time, they faced something different. Humanity didn't fight like the others. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless. Then, in a move that stunned everyone, the human fleet launched their secret weapon. The ship, once hidden in the depths of a distant asteroid belt, emerged from the shadows. It was smaller than the Kralzar warship, but it was faster, more agile, and far deadlier. With a sudden burst of speed, the human ship darted toward the Kralzar vessel, its weapons glowing with deadly energy. The Kralzar attempted to fire their devastating weapon, but it was too late. The human ship had already outmaneuvered them, dodging the blast with ease. The humans didn't stop there. They launched a coordinated strike, using their advanced technology to disable the Kralzar's warship systems. Within minutes, the once mighty ship was crippled, its weapons and shields useless. The Kralzar fleet was thrown into disarray as their flagship fell. The humans, knowing this was their moment, pressed forward with everything they had. The Kralzar, realizing their defeat, tried to retreat, but it was too late. Humanity's final attack came swift and brutal. The Kralzar ships, once proud and powerful, were no match for the fury of the human fleet. The war that had seemed so unwinnable for humanity just months before was now drawing to a close. The Kralzar, the galaxy's most feared empire, had been beaten, not by superior firepower, but by the ingenuity, determination, and spirit of humanity. As the Kralzar fleet scattered, their once imposing flagship now a smoldering wreck, the humans stood victorious. The war was over. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Kralzar, who had once believed they were untouchable, were now a defeated empire, their power shattered by a species they had dismissed as nothing more than primitive beings. The message was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They had faced impossible odds and had emerged victorious. No longer the underdogs, the humans had proven that they could overcome any challenge, no matter how insurmountable it seemed. The galaxy, once ruled by the Kralzar, was now in the hands of those who had dared to fight for their place in it. The Kralzar Empire would never be the same. Their once great power had crumbled, and in its place stood a new power, humanity, a power that no species would ever dare challenge again. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson: never underestimate humanity. They had faced the impossible, and they had won. The rise of humanity had begun, and nothing could stop it.